What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are actually going to continue our coverage over the Trial of X era of X-Men comics, where we actually pick up with X-Men number 8, the current X-Men series that's going on at the moment. Now, with that being said, X-Men number 8 is all about the idea of the X-Men fighting against M.O.D.O.K. Now, this is also continuing the storyline that something big is about to happen down the road thanks to Ben Urich. And you see what I mean as we go through this book. But let's go ahead and dive into X-Men number 8 and watch the X-Men fight against M.O.D.O.K, someone where you wouldn't really see the X-Men usually fight, but at the same time, it's kind of cool that they are fighting against this particular character. But here we go, X-Men number 8. And so as we jump into X-Men number 8, I kind of want to sit down and explain the origin of M.O.D.O.K just real quickly. Not the complete origin, but just enough so that you understand who the character truly is. Now, when it comes to M.O.D.O.K, he was originally just a regular guy when he had to join Advanced Idea Mechanics, better known as AIM. Now, with that being said, when he had joined them, they were trying to create the Cosmic Cube. Now, while that was going on, he was then technically pulled to the side and he was actually mutated by the Scientist Supreme, and he then gained super intelligent. Now, with him becoming super intelligent, he also gained psychic abilities as well. The problem is though, with him gaining all those different things, his brain grew too big, to the point where now his body technically cannot function correctly, and so he has to sit in a chair. Now, when we jump into X-Men number 8, right now we do see M.O.D.O.K right now testing out a new kind of virus that he had developed. Now, when it comes to this virus, it's technically right now attacking a certain part of the brain. And this certain part of the brain is usually where you kind of decide if you're going to fight against someone or something, or run away from someone or something. It's a fight or flight part of your brain. And what he did was he created a new virus that technically attacks that part of the brain where you now want to fight anything that gets in your view. So technically right now on this cruise ship, you have some of the people on the cruise ship just going crazy trying to fight against other people, actually trying to kill other people, because thanks to this virus attacking that certain part of the brain, everybody's right now is fighting but not running away. And that leads us into the X-Men arriving at the scene. Now, with the X-Men arriving at the scene, of course, their main goal is to stop M.O.D.O.K, but also help the innocent people who are being affected right now by his virus, and also get them off the cruise ship. Now, when the X-Men arrive, we also get reminded about the idea that right now the world believes that Cyclops is dead. And so right now he has to pretend to be someone else known as Captain Krakoa. And the reason why he has to do that is because of Ben Urich. Remember, Ben Urich is one of the best reporters in DC Comics. And right now, Ben Urich is working on a particular story where he is about to tell the world that the X-Men, the mutant race, have found a way to bring people back to life. Where, of course, they actually did find a way. That was made back in House of X and Power of X. And so right now, it seems like Ben Urich is going to tell the entire world what the X-Men can actually do, and they should share it with the rest of the world. Because it's not fair that the mutant race can keep it to themselves and humans cannot use it. Either way, we get back into the X-Men right now, making a game plan to stop M.O.D.O.K, help the innocent people, and get them off the cruise ship very quickly. And so while you have the X-Men begin the process of actually fighting against M.O.D.O.K, we do focus on two particular characters, and that will be Laura Kinney, Wolverine, and also Synch. And the reason why, because these two characters used to be in love with one another in the last X-Men run that was written by Jonathan Hickman. And let me explain. So these two characters plus another character known as Darwin, they went on a mission to technically learn more about the children of the Vault. Now, for them to do that, they had to go inside the vault. Now, the vault is a special area where time moves differently. And because time moves differently in the vault, of course, 1 day in the real world, in the vault is 100 days. And so with that being said, these two characters were in there for 100 years. And they fell in love with one another. But here comes the problem though. So usually when the X-Men die, they are brought back to life now in current X-Men comics, but their memories are kept in a storage system called Cerebro. Cerebro is right now holding on to all the different memories of mutants across the world, so that when they're brought back to life, a psychic is able to download their memories into their new body's brain. And so when it came to Sync and also Wolverine, while they were inside the vault, Cerebro could not technically connect to their minds. And so if they want to remember everything about the vault, they had to get back outside the vault before they were killed. And here comes the problem though, because when it came to Laura Kinney, she died inside the vault. And so with her dying inside the vault, when she was brought back to life, she does not remember anything about the vault at all, especially falling in love with Sync. But Sync was able to actually get outside the vault so that Cerebro was able to reconnect with his mind, learn everything he learned about the vault. But on top of that, when he was brought back to life, he remembered everything about the vault. And so with that, he's still madly in love with Laura Kinney, but she is not, because she does not remember falling in love with him. And right now she's saying, listen, it's gonna take a lot of time for me to kind of adjust to the idea that we dated, but on top of that, with the idea of falling back in love with you again. And so that is the moment where we do jump back into the main point of the storyline, where you have the X-Men right now fighting against M.O.D.O.K. Now, with them fighting against M.O.D.O.K, this is where you kind of have the story at first show you that when it comes to M.O.D.O.K, sometimes fans and also writers as well forget the idea that M.O.D.O.K could be a very powerful character. Not like God tier, but still somewhat powerful in his own way. And most time when fans see M.O.D.O.K or writers write about M.O.D.O.K, he's kind of like a joke to fans and writers as well. And so with these few pages, at first, he gives the X-Men a run for their money to say, this is a character who's not a pushover. This is not a character who's a laughing stock. He is a character where technically he could be a huge threat if he had the proper time to plan and do the things he actually wants to do. Either way, once you have the X-Men being able to stop M.O.D.O.K, you have Cyclops as Sync to connect his mind with M.O.D.O.K's mind. Now remember, the world still believes that Cyclops is dead, and so to M.O.D.O.K, this is not Cyclops, this is Captain Krakoa. Either way, you do have Sync do what Cyclops had asked him to do, which is connect his mind to M.O.D.O.K's mind. And so when Cyclops does connect his mind to M.O.D.O.K's mind, well, that is the moment where you have Cyclops find out that M.O.D.O.K has children. Now, this is actually very important because for Cyclops, he had no idea that M.O.D.O.K had children. And so it's Cyclops right now realizing that they do have something in common. But at the same time, the reason why Cyclops wanted to have this conversation with M.O.D.O.K is because right now it's Cyclops trying to decide what to do with M.O.D.O.K, to kill him off or to leave him alive. Because the Cyclops, he's very upset with the idea that M.O.D.O.K is probably one of the smartest people on the planet. With his brain and with his resources, he should be able to help make the world better. But instead, he is trying to make the world even worse. And so right now, it's Cyclops asking M.O.D.O.K, why are you doing that? Why are you not trying to help the world get better? Why are you trying to make the world get even worse? And that is the moment where you have M.O.D.O.K say, because when you try to create things that are good, those things fly away. They're unable to be controlled. But when it comes to monsters and demons, you can control them easier than angels. So that is why I do what I do. I love having control. And so I make different things that are horrible because I can control those different horrible things. And so that is the moment where we do jump over to Cyclops and Sync. Now, when we do, this is the moment where you do have the story tell us that Sync did something to the mind of Ben Urich. Now, this is actually very important because when it comes to Sync, he has the ability to copy other people's powers. Now, originally, they had to be a mutant and they had to be nearby him, but those rules no longer apply, meaning that he's now able to copy almost anybody's powers. But on top of that, once he copies your powers and you leave the area, he still has the ability to use your powers. And so right now it's Sync saying, listen, I'm able to use the powers of Jean Grey, and I use my powers on the mind of Ben Urich to play with his mind. And the reason why, because Ben Urich was going to tell the entire world about the idea that the mutant race had the ability to bring someone back to life, the resurrection process. And here's the thing though, the X-Men were scared because if that got out, the human race might hate the mutants even more. Because why aren't the mutants sharing that with the human race? Because there are humans who also lost people they love. That process should be shared with them as well. And so with that being said, they were scared of Ben telling the world about what they have done. But on top of that, they were scared that Ben might write a story where it's kind of in a negative way towards the X-Men. Now, that's the thing, because if Ben did that, of course, the people who read his story will believe what he is saying is true, that the mutants are bad for hiding this process from the human race. And so you had Sync use the powers of Jean Grey to kind of make Ben Urich to forget to write the story. But on top of that though, Sync found out that when it came to Ben Urich, Ben was actually going to write a piece or a story about the idea that the mutants have the ability to resurrect people, but in a good way, not in a bad way. And that right there kind of bothered Sync, because now Sync feels like what he did was wrong. He wiped the mind of a man because they were scared of the idea he might write a piece in a negative way saying, look at what the mutants are hiding from us. But in reality, Ben was not going to do that. Matter of fact, he was going to write a story in a way of saying like, thank God the mutants on the way to bring people back to life, because sooner or later they could share that with us. And so this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.